thank you all for coming in a Sunday morning like this, and I hope this will be a productive discussion that we will have. I will try to speak in Tamil and English, but I will rather confine myself to English so that everyone can understand. And you can intervene, and this is, I'm not going to give a sort of a speech for you. I'm going to outline the format of the discussion that is going to take place, because the most important thing is to know and get the idea from the participants and develop a discussion so that to explore where we are on this issue. First of all, the objectives are that we had, like the chairman mentioned, that first round of discussion we had in October 2015. Some of you were present there, and that was in Hayes, and some of you were here, and second round is this. And in the meantime, there is a big and a very intensive process taking place in Sri Lanka. One of them is the Public Representation Committee, which has been going around the country, and it is said they have received about 5,000 submissions. 5,000 submissions from all sorts of people, and all 24 districts have been visited. And now they are still in session in Wayamba, and they are receiving submissions. And the Prime Minister, according to the news reports, have seen them on the 11th of March, that is 2 days ago, and they have briefed them what exactly is going on. That is one thing. Second thing is, on March 9th, there was a motion brought by the Prime Minister to make the Parliament into a constitutional assembly. Constitutional assembly, they say there is a difference between a constitutional assembly and a constituent assembly. A constituent assembly which will have wide-ranging powers. I am not a legal expert, but I think a constituent assembly, if it is made into a constituent assembly that, like in 1978, then they will have wide-ranging powers. This constitutional assembly, almost, it is similar to a parliamentary select committee. In this context, the whole parliament acts as a select committee. That's what the news. So, then the idea is to share our ideas between all of us and see what we can do about this, and whether we have any common grounds. If there is some, let us articulate that and let us exchange views. Because this is not going to be an easy task, and this is not a task aimed at finding a draft or a solution. On the contrary, it is highly political issue. We come from that. Because there are, most of you who are here are long-term activists and political activists, and it is a political issue. It has political implications. So our concerns are expressed in that manner, that what is the political importance of this. So we will identify the common concerns and submit to the constitution makers, whether it is like the chairman said, whether it is to the Public Representation Committee or the Steering Committee. All this, ultimately, this is going to be done in Parliament. That means the Tamil representation, Tamil views are going to be represented by Tamil parliamentarians. That is what the ultimate arbiter. So we have to find a way to communicate our real concern. This is not to, personally I think, this is not a time to say, this is what we want and we cannot give this up. That attitude may or may not take us anywhere, because there are reasons. We will go through each and every issues, why people feel so passionately about this. But we will see why, what is possible. Ultimately, it is the art of the possible, isn't it? What we can do is what we can do. And let us see, there are two things. Process is one thing, the contents. Process is, just now I have described, the PRC and the Steering Committee and the Constituent Assembly, which has been now passed in Parliament, but there are some issues people are talking about. No, there are some issues in the sense, there were a lot of opposition to this. It was brought as a motion on the 9th of January. It was passed only on the 11th of March. In between there was so much delay, and there were amendments. one of the key amendments is the original resolution said this is going to be a new constitution. But the amendment by the opposition, joint opposition, that is Mahinda Rajapaksa-led opposition, wanted to not to call this as a new constitution. They said it is an amendment to the constitution and it is being agreed upon. So, end of the day, whatever the issues that happened during the 20th amendment in abolishing the executive presidency, that will still remain in some form or the other. That is expected. Because they have said, this is going to be an amendment. And secondly, many of those opposition MPs, joint opposition MPs, were not present when it was passed. They have absented themselves. By doing that, it is signaling that they are going to stage a guerrilla war against this constitutional process all the way through. Because they didn't allow it to be a unanimous decision. There was nobody present there. So we cannot expect miracles out of this. And we have to be fully aware of that. And within this context, what we can achieve is our question. About the content, repeatedly leaders say, and we had a meeting with the NRTSL people, we had a meeting with the Prime Minister before the general election. And he categorically said, this is before the elections, that this is going to be within 13th amendment. A solution going to be within 13th amendment. And then there is pressure and there is lobbying for something more tangible. And if that is going to be that, the contents within the 13th amendment and the CBK's proposal in 2000, which was made it into a bill and came to Parliament, and then it couldn't get the passage through the Parliament. So that 2000 bill and 13th amendment are going to be the wider, broader framework within which any real constitutional change is going to happen. And so we have made a small reference booklet there, and it says about the lists of, we can give it to you, or anyone who is interested, we can email it to you. But it is good to disseminate what is really going on. And these two, 13th amendment and the 2000 proposal, amongst other things, the main importance is 13th amendment have 3 lists. Devolved powers. One is for a list of subjects which were dedicated to the center, a list of subjects dedicated to the provinces, and there was a third list called concurrent list. Those who experienced the 13th amendment, not only in the north and east, even in the other provinces, they recognized that the third list created a lot of issues in genuinely devolving powers to the periphery. So that is not only related to the Tamil or the northeast, that has been the issue. So this 2000 CBK's proposal have deleted that concurrent list. So there is at least a clear list of the reserve list and a regional list. That is one. So let us take this, because this is a bad word to mention, this unitary or federal. That is one of the contentious issues. So nobody wants to discuss that, because then that's a troublemaker, isn't it? On the Sinhala side they say unitary, and Tamil side they say federal. Different, they are variant in this. Different people say this thing for different reasons. But I think there is a genuine commitment from the Tamil side, a moderate Tamil opinion, that federalism is the suitable framework for ultimate solution, federalism. Why? Why federalism? Because it's the experience. Federalism, like the chairman said, it was not invented by Tamils. It came from before. It came before that. You all know that. I don't want to go into these details. But the crux of the matter is, people think a unitary state will always have the power to withdraw whatever is given. So the genuine devolution should be a federal system. That is it. perception from Tamils. This is not to justify a separate state, because we have traveled through that path. Some of us were thinking a separate state may be a solution, and that was the time. But in present context, we genuinely think separation may or may, it is not in the agenda. It will not be possible. So, still, a federalism is it's a guarantee that we can live with dignity in Sri Lanka. On the other hand, even recently, when the PRC went around the country, I hear that from the southern districts, they have submitted so many proposals, and they also have a genuine, I'm not talking about the racist elements or those who are against Tamils, I'm talking about normal, ordinary Sinhalese, and they have a genuine fear about this federalism can lead to secession, because if you give enough power, it will lead to secession. So, in other words, they would like to think indivisible Sri Lanka. Is that what they aspire for? So there is a two position. These are, I'm not talking about the extremist position in this, genuine position between federalism and unitary states. Muslims, of course, they take a different view. While they have the proper share of power at the center, they don't mind the unitary state. But if it is going to be a merged northeast province, then they fear that they will become minorities. So they think, in case of federalism, the unit of devolution must be something where they will be able to exercise their majority power. So those are issues ultimately have to be addressed, and it has to be discussed about. We cannot sweep that under the carpet, We have to discuss that. And second one is unit of devolution. For Tamils, we genuinely think a merger is the security. Tamils need a northeast merger. And in that 13th Amendment made the provinces as the unit of devolution, all 9 provinces, with the provision that 2 or more adjoining provinces can join itself. Not only 2, not north and east, it can be any 2 or 3, can join themselves into a unit. That is what 13th Amendment said, but it didn't come true. And you can read that in the Parliament may be under any law provided by these 2 adjoining provinces, they can make into one administrative unit. But the provinces itself has never been a political unit. Provinces were demarcated for administrative purposes. The provinces assumed political importance only with the 13th Amendment. Only then they said this is 13th, the provinces are a political administrative unit, where you have a legislative assembly for provinces. So, in the annals of Sri Lankan conflict, the provinces became a real political entity only by the 13th Amendment. That is the watershed, that's the landmark. And so far, in the 60 or 70 years of struggle from all these leaders, what we have a constitutional provision is only the 13th Amendment. There's no other constitutional. All the other pacts, Untitled Pact was there, Devolution Pact was there, so many other proposals were there, they were all broken. They never got their place in the Constitution. In the Constitution, this is the only provision so far, up until today. And we are realistically seeing that going to be here for some time. So it is important that we fully understand what the 13th Amendment said. More importantly, what are the inadequacies in the 13th Amendment, and what are the fears people have about the 13th Amendment, how we can narrow the gap. That is the sort of discussion we need to have. And then the devolved power is always going to be in dispute. When we were negotiating those days, the advent of the provincial councils, some Indian leaders told us the relationship between center and the periphery are never going to be settled. Even in India, after the exercise of so much devolution, still there are disputes. Still there are disputes between center and the periphery. So we have to consider this as an ongoing process, and Tamils, in my view, should place justifiable demands and workable demands and achievable positions. That's the third one, the devolved powers.
You gave us a liberty to intervene.
Sorry, no.
So that's the reason I am just asking not to
No.
interrupt you. When we talk about making the constitution, there are so many issues involved or concepts. So as far as Tamils are concerned, very important aspect is right to self-determination. We have experienced 3 constitutions, and now they are claiming that this is a new constitution, new approach, and also is claimed that now we have a good governance. We want to continue through the new constitution. If it is the case, we have lost everything. So in order to restore, we have to see how we can restore what we have lost. So as far as I am concerned, I feel Tamil people have to identify their legal entitlements, not nationally, internationally. We are living under the UN system now, and as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, they are taking maximum advantage of being member of the United Nations and the safety net provided by the UN system. As far as Tamils are concerned, we have been cornered. We have not taken the advantages given to the Tamils or minorities under the UN system. So when our leaders or representatives talk in the parliaments, they should be fully armed with the UN legal regimes. Unfortunately, when Prime Minister mentioned to in public or in various places, we will not give you, we will not recognize or adapt federalism. Unfortunately, there were no lawyers in the parliament to ask the Prime Minister, my learned friend, have you got the right to say that? In my view, Prime Minister has no right to say Tamils are not entitled for federalism. I think we have to focus our discussion relying on the maximum benefit how we can restore. We appreciate both of you have systematically introduced the subject. If we are going to focus on 13th amendments, I feel sometimes we are undermining our maximum entitlement.
I think I empathize with that view, but the point, what we are trying to do is, we would like to discuss everything. I fully empathize with that, what you just said. The point is, it is the art of the possible, isn't it? Art of the possible. And this is happening now, and it is going to proceed. And in 72 and 78, Tamils made a mistake. Mistake in the sense, we excluded ourselves. And they took it as an advantage. And even the minimum thing that were not placed when the safeguard for minorities via the Salisbury Constitution, that clause 29.2 or something, they say, clause 2 and section 29. And they say that provided minimum security. And it was just taken away and nothing was put in place. And nobody talked about that. We never realized that at that time. Now, one of the things that, like, following from what Ham says, I agree with that there is an issue and we can go on saying this. But in 2016, this constitutional change is a real thing that is going to take place. That is going to be drafted by the current Constitutional Assembly, which is the Parliament, where the Tamil representatives TMA will be privy to whatever they right. So in a way, like the chairman said, we have no choice but to give full support to that process and get the maximum, even if it means getting to know what safeguards we have. Because that is, if it's not going to be federal law unitary, what are the safeguards the Constitution is going to provide? Because the main fear, as I said, federalism assures that we will, the powers that are devolved will not be taken. That is the crux of the thing. And if it is not going to be federalism, how are we going to address that fear? Who will make another government come tomorrow, take the powers away? So what is the clauses that are going to be placed in the Constitution which will safeguard? So to the extent that it is irretrievable from what is given. So that is the, probably that is the proposal I would like to argue for. We need to understand this is what is going to happen, and let us make sure in this process, let us make sure that the powers once given cannot be taken away. Who is going to do that? And all these international support or lobbying and much work needs to be done within the singular community. As I said, those people, genuine apprehensions they have about the federalism will lead to a secession, we have to address them, including the safeguard. That is the approach which is more conducive to the current to meet the current political realities. And we cannot being political activists, we cannot be ignorant of the undercurrents that is taking place in Sri Lanka today, and where this opposition is coming from. And we have a rich experience in this. When Untitled Chapter came, that was much more at that time. At that time it was much more. Still, that has to be taken out because of the single opposition. The political, Sri Lankan politics is going to be intertwined with these forces controlling it. So much more work needs to be done. It cannot be done in 1 year, but we have to charter a path to travel on it, to narrow down the gaps and work on this, and secure as much as possible, and secure guarantees that can be obtained. And the unit of devolution, come to unit of devolution again, the Tamils, why they want merger? Because they think the state-aided colonization from 50s and so on, it has bifurcated, and they made them feel insecure in their own homeland. And so these are the issues that led to this civil war. So what they think is, at least we have a federal unit where we can determine the powers, we can control the land and the police powers, and live in amity with the people living in the vicinity. That is the fear. That is the genuine fear came. That is why in 1956, when they wanted federalism, they never imagined to go for a separate, so secessionist route. They wanted that fear to be alleviated. Primarily the colonization and the particular designs to change the demography, like bifurcating north and east, and planned colonization in Velioya and certain districts of Mullaitivu, and geographical contiguity being impeded. So these are the issues that made the Tamils think, oh, this is a merged province will be a safe place, and we will decide. It's not meant to be excluding Sinhalese from that area. It is the state-aided designed colonization. That is a reality we must talk about. We must talk about in the sense, not with venom, not with taking a revenge, but this is what it is. And we made mistakes, all made mistakes. And to look into the future, let us keep talking and see what is achievable. And Sinhalese things, they also have fear. If the northern east is merged, then they will control the vast area of the sea coastal resources, and they will have access to disproportionate coastal access compared to the population, and then they always have this, they are majority but they have a minority complex. So many times it is mentioned because they think the next door there are 60 million Tamils are there, so they feel a minority within that region. So that is another thing that we have to respect. When the political wisdom, if it is to prevail, people have to really think in those terms, I think. And Muslims, of course, they enjoy, they have done well in the sense. We were going to invite some Muslims also in the next, so that we can exchange views. But they think a merged northern province, they will become minority. And in the eastern province, now they, even though they are one-third, roughly one-third, they control, they have more political leverage, political power in the east than they could enjoy in a merged northeast province. So that is, just or not is not the question. What the real political animals want to be is, that's what they will ask for. And that will be very popular within the Muslim community. Any politician, a street politician would think, but whatever it is popular with the people, then he will take it up. That has been the history, and that will be the history for some time to come. And what we envisage as reasonable and progressive or modern outlook, and that will take some time, but this is a starting point. So as far as the powers are concerned, the list says so many, and we need guarantees, and we need to make sure that it is a flawless constitution which gives meaningful powers to the province. And land powers and police powers are one of the most contested. 13th Amendment clearly said the land belongs to the province. And since then, since 1987, which come into existence, until today, it has gone back so much, and they have undone that. And land powers is non-existent at present, because it is also the interpreting what the 13th Amendment is. And then there is a big issue about, often we hear, whatever the Northern Provincial Council does or does not, we hear one thing repeatedly, that there is no funds, no finance, because there is no clear fiscal arrangements and financial devolution put in place. So that has to be clarified. These are the things we must discuss more and jot down. We are not going to draft a parallel constitution. I don't think, I'm not in the league of writing constitution. As I said, I come from a political background. I understand what the politics behind it, what the people think about it. That is where we come from. And we must try and articulate that aspect of it. That what would be like, to what extent we need guarantees and clarities about these powers, finance, devolution. And the other thing, which was led to so many interpretations, the 13th Amendment and even the 2000 proposal are almost similar about powers of the governor. Powers of the governor, at some point we don't know where he stands. And then it made it into a joke, like the elected chief minister is on the one side and the governor is on the other. So but how do you interpret the power of governor? And that has to be well thought out, and people need to work on it. Because if we leave those aspects, we are going to go through another round of things without anything concretely embedded in the constitution. That is the issue. We need to make sure that whatever the constitution is going to become, the minimum possible things needs to be embedded in the constitution. So we have to identify the areas rather than digressing on all the intricate issues about constitution. We will see what exactly we can say and what we think, or we will find people to advise us to, or we will broaden this discussion at a broader level, and we will see what are the things. We need powers of the governor and the central list and the provincial list. That is another thing. So, the unit of devolution, I have got a small thing. We have done this before, and I will let you have a look at it. We didn't have enough copies to go around, and you know the map is there. Yeah. It says all the green colors shows the Muslim population, dispersion of the Muslim population, and the yellow shows the Tamil, and the red shows the Sinhalese. And if you see the district of Ampara is next to and largely Sinhalese area. So there are suggestions of doing demarcating the provinces, and two things about the unit. Demarcation is possible, and also special arrangements like in Pondicherry or Union territories, some arrangements for the Muslims where they will feel confident. Because we cannot impose against the Muslims' political will. So the Muslim areas are marked here. I can send you, if you need, you put your email there and we will send you these documents what we are discussing, a brief notes to you, email you, and we can discuss it. I'm going to stop with that because I think I have gone over my limit. So I invite you to, we are not experts, we all know. We don't have answers to questions, but we know what worries us, what is the political apprehensions we have, and what is the fear we have. We are clear about that. So we are trying to seek solutions for that. So in that manner, I want you to respond to this and openly discuss everything. Like Bharam said, that's a very good point, that the right of self-determination has to be there. But in this particular process, where do we place those questions are there? That will always remain in the heart of the thing. But how we interpret it is another thing. But this current dynamics of what is happening is this. And we need to address specific things. Now I open the floor and I invite you to contribute and we will have a discussion. But one thing, I think it is better that if we discuss set some ground rules. All you address the chairman here, and he will direct the speakers. Then we will, if there are any responses needed, we will come at the end. Otherwise, we can also exchange between us, and let's see where we go. Thank you.